Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Soul Stories, because every soul has a story. And the more we share our stories, the more we realize that we are far more similar than we are different. And we can each learn all kinds of things from each other's stories. I'm Lisa Warner. I'm your host. I am the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing. And today I am here with my very good friend, Kathy Bradley. Kathy and I have been very close friends for over 10 years. We've been through lots of spiritual growth together and many adventures. And today, here we are on another adventure where Kathy gets to tell her soul story. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. It's always beautiful to be in your energy and to connect with you. And yes, we do share our stories all the time, don't we?
We do. Kathy is an amazing angel communicator. She's very intuitive and she talks with the angels. And I'm sure she'll tell you all about that in her story.
Thank you. Yes. So I'm going to start at the end where I am at this moment in time, because all we have is the present moment.
Awesome.
So I thought that was where I was drawn to be. And I want to share, I am a creator. And the reason why I start there is I'm hoping that that will bring a memory back to you, because we are all creators. And we were born with this, and then little by little, we forgot about this gift that we each had in creating our facet of the dream, right? And so when I looked at the big picture, I thought, well, this is where I am. I'm a creator. And then how did I get here? What were the stepping stones that brought me here? So starting at the beginning, I was brought into the world in a very traditional Irish Catholic family, 4 children. My dad was a doctor, mom was a caretaker. They loved life. They enjoyed color. They enjoyed doing things. Faith, family, and fun was one of their things. But one of the things for me is I was always connected with nature, animals, and I'll say the heavenly realm, because with my background, I would very often connect with Mother Mary or Yeshua or God the Creator, along with the fairies and the dolphins and the mermaids. We lived on the water. So I would just love to be down at the water. And I really felt the mermaids and the dolphins were with me. So this is where I wanted to bring in the dynamics of the family. My oldest brother, Lawrence, he was very smart, very spiritual, and he was labeled schizophrenic. He would say he heard voices in his head. The animals talked to him, and he was labeled, quote, crazy. When I would share little things with him, he would say, don't tell anybody. So I learned very early on to keep it shut, to keep it private. My little friends, my little world, it was kind of like, okay, that's not safe to share with people. Mm-hmm. The other thing is I was always connected with color. Loved marbles, loved light, loved colors. Didn't necessarily know what it meant, but I knew it meant something. It was like, wow, these colors, how they make me feel and how I resonate with them. And so that was really fun. And I found my safe haven, so to speak, with nature, with the animal kingdom. We had a dog, we had a cat, we had Petey the parakeet. And just nature in general. As I got older, when I was in high school, I had a horse. Loved my horse. And I think a lot of people that are on this venture that are very sensitive do connect with nature, do connect with the elemental world, right? Mm-hmm. So I connected with that, and that brought me a lot of peace and harmony. That's where I felt most alive, being out riding my horse out in the woods, grabbing a berry from the tree. I'm like, this is great. Then kind of fast forward a little, I went to college. Um, and I really kind of started following the traditional, this is what you do. You go to college, you have a career, you get ahead. So I started going, graduated college, majored in transportation. And I was very successful in sales. And I had, quote, everything that you aspire to. I had a good marriage, a beautiful home, made a good financial, and I realized I wasn't happy. It didn't, that quote, success wasn't fulfilling me. So what was wrong? So the other thing that occurred, I ended up having back surgery. I was in a lot of pain and had back surgery. And this is one of the other things that I want to share is sometimes when we suffer and when we're in pain, that provides a catalyst for us to learn and to grow and to be curious. Like, how did this happen? How did I get here? How did I forget that I could heal myself? So, Lisa, that's one thing that you always share. And what I learned is I started taking the Reiki classes. I would go to Reiki circles. It felt beautiful, it felt good, it felt natural, right? We all have that healing ability. And then I became a Reiki master. And I started training other people. And Reiki is all about unconditional, non-judgmental love. So with this, I started to learn to love myself. Because as I was growing up, and we all tend to have this, it's kind of like we're programmed of what's wrong with me? Where am I lacking, right?
Yep.
And funny, as I was thinking about this, I remember saying to my dad, I'm sorry. I would say it all the time. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He said, stop saying I'm sorry. Guess what I said?
Oh, sorry.
Right? Is that not too funny when you think about it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, that kind of brought me on the healing scope of things rather than the busyness in the corporate arena. And then we went on a vacation to my husband wanted a trip. We went to Phoenix. From Phoenix, we went out for a day adventure to Sedona. And I was very taken with the energies and the beauty and just the way it made me feel. I felt home. Now, while I was there, I bought a deck of cards, an oracle card deck for reading angel readings. And it made so much sense to me. I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I started sharing these messages with people. And at this point, I had shifted out of that transportation career because it wasn't working for me. And I went into interior design. Loved that. That was very creative. And I created a serenity room in a designer show house. And the reason why I did that is when I would go to people's homes, they were missing the sacredness of their home. They were like, well, you tell me what to do. And I'm like, well, what would you like? You know, what colors do you enjoy? And they were like, well, I don't know and I don't care. What's in? And I'm like, missing the picture here.
Wow.
So when I did that designer show house, I brought my deck of cards that I had bought, and I gave each person that came into my room, my serenity room, which was all about meditating, connecting with your higher self. I gave each person a message. I ended up having a line out the door.
Wow.
Yeah. And then from there, I went and I studied in Hawaii and learned about how to give angelic readings. And that was in 2008. And that's kind of when the financial market was, going down. And I remember thinking, oh boy, am I crazy doing this? And I went. I followed my heart and I went and I learned a lot. And I started sharing and doing these angel readings for friends and family. And then I realized that I had the gift to connect with the angelic realm. I would hear things, receive messages, and I listened to it. I listen to my heart's calling. And this is something that I want to bring out for everyone. Everyone has a calling and everyone has a purpose. And if we could honor each other's differences, kind of like facets in a diamond, right? And each facet is beautiful in its own right. And if we can follow our own heart, that's where the beauty lies. And it's not in someone telling us what to do, what our life purpose is. It's in following our heart. And if it means sitting out under a tree and that brings you bliss and joy, do it. Keep following our preferred state of being. Follow those little breadcrumbs, right? So yeah, and from that, and then from all of the different modalities that we've learned, now I share with people. I do angelic readings, I do Reiki, but I feel most drawn to doing the life coaching because what I can do is share tools and techniques with people so that they can see their divine nature, that we all have the answers within here. It's not out there. There are no experts, quote unquote. Yeah, we can learn from each other. But we all have this inner wisdom, and the more that we can all be drawn to that and live our life, we start to shine our light. And we are here, we're being reminded and remembering that we are here to create heaven on earth. And it's by following our bliss. That's it. But we've been so programmed to struggle, right? You have to go upstream. It's got to be hard. So that's what we have to let go of. That's what the dismantling is. All of the programming that we've been taught. Let that go and bring in the remembrance, the light, the love, the beauty, the joy that we all are. That's really what it's about. And it's very, you have to be masterful. What I mean by that is we have to take responsibility. So when I was young, I would say I was unconscious. I was unconscious of being conscious, right? I wasn't aware that I was creating my life. I was in that victim state where when I was hurt, it was like, well, how did this happen to me, or who did it to me? And now I started our whole program today with I'm a creator. Right? So it can be challenging to say, oh, did I create that? I didn't create that. Oh, yes, we did. And others are our greatest teachers. They're our mirrors for us. So when we see what we don't like within someone else, very often that's triggering us to see within ourselves where there's an anomaly that we want to let go of. And it's through doing our due diligence, our work, letting go of all of that, and vibrating at this beautiful high vibrational frequency that is love, that is light. That's all of these beautiful high vibrational qualities and experiences for us to live. And as we embody that, then we can be an example for others. They can see, like, oh, she had the same challenge as I did. She didn't believe in herself. She said, I'm sorry. And look where she is now. And I am still evolving, always growing, always evolving, always learning. It doesn't end.
Yes.
Right? So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell. And I learned through time, and it's always expanding, the connection with source and how the messages come through. And I want to show, it started with this little book, Messages Are Everywhere. And it was out in nature that I would get these wonderful messages. And I kept getting told to write it down, write down these messages. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what it was for. And I wasn't a great writer. I don't consider myself a good writer. And I thought, well, that's just a belief system. Right? And so I wrote it down, and I really had fun because I got to share messages about my dog, Doxy, passing, and how he came through in a cloud for my husband and my son. It's like when you open up, you see how heaven can come through nature, through a conversation. It could be a song, it could be a vision. The more that we open up to all of that's there, it's like a muscle, right? It's like you skating, Lisa, and you had that muscle, and the more that you skated, the stronger it became. So again, paying attention to that and listening to our body, which you did, and realizing that we can heal ourselves. And as we realize that and we start taking our power back, and we realize that we are sovereign beings, that's where the lessons are, and that's where the growth is. And the other book that I wrote is The Light Becomes You. And it's funny because when I was getting the message to write the book, they told me The Light Becomes You. That was the name of the book. And I was like, The Light Becomes You. And I'm like, And I wrote it down, and I pushed back. I pushed back quite a bit because I'm like, well, how does that make sense? And then I'm like, wow, the light becomes you. It works two different ways, right? The light becomes you, and then the light becomes you. It's in our body that we're moving as the light that pours in, the high vibration light that we've never experienced before, because the earth fell below that 12th dimension. We're in that fixed state. And so we moved out of the light. And now what we're doing is we are going back to Shambhala. So we have to let go of all of the darkness, all of the things that no longer serve us. So it's all of those belief systems and limitation and lack, thinking we're separate from. We are all creators, made in the image and similitude of God. So when we remember that, and then we keep tweaking as we go along, right? And we keep finding another false belief, it's kind of like, oh, wow. And it's funny because if we have these beliefs and we think they're serving us. I'll give you an example. I was thinking about it the other day. The belief for me, as an example, abundance. So abundance is everywhere. However, we believe for whatever reason there's a lack of abundance, right? And I didn't have that belief. However, I realized I had a belief around abundance with it will distract me. It will take me off my path. And this was a recent one that I realized. I'm like, wow, isn't that interesting? Because then I think I'll be distracted by all of this stuff. You know, the cars, the house, the money, all of that. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. But then I see that that belief is what's erroneous. That's what needs to be changed. Right? Because this is why we're here. We are here to be abundant, to live in joy, to live in prosperity. And it's all around us. So if we can change our belief that's not serving us, that's where we come into our power.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a lot of doing the daily work on a moment by moment basis. It's living our life in the present moment.
Yes, being really conscious of how we are using our consciousness, which is the most powerful thing in all of creation.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we keep bringing ourselves to the present moment, so the story, I think it's interesting. I was thinking about that. I'm like, the story can be whatever we want it to be. Right? So it's kind of like, well, we can look at our story and we can see it from a victim place, right? Like, oh, well, I wasn't supported in this way, or that one didn't appreciate me, or the priest told me I was bad, or I was a sinner. So we can look on that, or we can say, well, I believed that. I took that belief on, right? Which didn't serve me, but that's what I was told, and that's what I believe. And then because that's what I believed, I kept creating that. That's where it's really interesting, that whole creator thing, right? And we don't even realize we're doing it, because who would want to miscreate? None of us. But we haven't been taught. We haven't been taught that we're the creators, A, and B, we're sovereign. Take our power back. Don't give it away.
Yes.
Don't give it away, even though they may be very well meaning parents, teachers, friends, priests. Taking our power back and remembering within is where the wisdom is, and that connection with all that is. So as you and I have learned, we get together every couple of weeks and we chat. And the other thing that I want to share is the importance that that has brought. Connecting with like-hearted individuals, where it's all based in love. There's no judgment. We get to share our feelings, and we gain so much more by connecting together than we could ever alone.
Mm.
Right? With our meditations, with our realizations, it's kind of like, well, maybe if you turn it this way, you can see it from a different aspect. It's kind of like, wow, you're right. I didn't see that. But we're not in that place of defense, right? Like, well, this is how I do it. It's kind of like we're always curious. And curiosity is so important, right? Instead of I'm right, you're wrong. It's like, what else is possible?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the other really positive, important things that we want to share with people, is the importance of having each other, having our group, having our quote tribe. We're all sovereign. We're all unique. We're all very different, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Beautiful.
yeah, exactly. That's what's beautiful. There's no, well, this is how I do it, so this is how it should be done. It's so interesting how we each have different perspectives. So yeah, I find that very, very helpful. And I wanted to share that with people too. And there's so many online programs and courses and places that we can learn from. I do a lot on Zoom, whether it's with Divine Life Coaching or my Life Becomes You program. It's there to help people. And they're always, whoever is listening to this is listening to this for a reason, right? We're always called.
Yes.
It was interesting because when we started with Mastering Alchemy, I looked back in one of my magazines, the Sedona magazine, and on the back flap, there he was, Mastering Alchemy, Jim. But I hadn't seen it at that point. I wasn't ready until I was ready. Yeah, so it's being curious, it's wanting to learn, and moving out of the noise and the drama is one of the best things we can do for ourselves, because these times, right? Oh my gosh, it's so fear-based, isn't it?
Oh my heavens.
Yeah. So if one thing you could learn is detach from the drama, stop watching the news.
Yeah. Please.
Please stop watching the news. And take the time for yourself, nurture yourself, love yourself in whatever way feeds you. We're all so unique. Read a book. Okay, another thing you shared about Anastasia,
Yes.
the book, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. And Rosemary read the book and I was like, oh wow, I'd heard that. Yeah, so then it's kind of like you're reminded again. Let's read this. Let's see what we can learn with this, and be inspired. There's so many different ways to be inspired. Music, tone, right?
Yes. For anybody who's listening who doesn't know what we're referring to, there's a series of books written about or by through whatever this woman who grew up in the Russian forest, and she grew up literally in the forest by herself. She had her grandfather and great grandfather were in the vicinity, but she was left in the forest, and the forest and the animals raised her. And she is one with all of them. She's in full connection with the earth, with the animals, with the plants. She takes full care of herself, and she is fully conscious of the divine, of the history of the universe. She can travel to other places in the universe. She can travel to other places in the on the earth, wherever she wants to go. She is extremely clear, and I look at it as she is the divine blueprint. She is the original human. And she really, in these series of books, now I'm on the fifth book, I can't put them down. I just
Mhm.
keep going. And she's really sharing how we can come back into alignment with our own divinity and the divine design of Earth herself, so we can all live in peace and harmony and grand abundance on this planet in total simplicity.
Beautiful. Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting how she draws this man and she chooses him to write the books.
Hmm.
And so often he's going back and forth whether he thinks she's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's interesting the wisdom that she imparts and how she changes him and society.
Yes.
That's the wisdom that's shared in these books. But it is very interesting how she maintains her sovereignty and continues to live where she is in the woods and not get drawn in.
Has no interest in being drawn in, because once you're drawn into creator, to your own divinity, to the divine design, the other stuff is really of no interest. All of the artificial things are of no interest. It's only in the organic living things that instill life, that allow us to have that constant curiosity, that joy of living, being in celebration of life itself, and wanting to make all life even better, even more joyful.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. So yeah, there's so many avenues, and this is the time. We are here to create heaven on earth. And so we're each being called to live our joy, our beauty, our peace, our harmony. And one of the simplest ways and the most profound ways is out in nature, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
It's
where
for
we're
me,
designed to be.
exactly, because we are nature.
Yes.
Yes. We're the air, we're the fire, we're the body, we're the ether, we're the love. The fifth element of earth is love. It's an element. It's not the warm and fuzzy, I love you about time. Oh, I don't love you anymore. No, no, it's true love, which God imparts on each one of us, loves us unconditionally. And so we have this free will. We can choose to believe that we are one with God, with Source, or we are separate. We are not love. And the beauty is as we remember, it's like that bag is taken off, the veil is thinned, right? And so now we're having glimpses. And the more that we see the glimpses, we think, oh, me? And one thing that I wanted to share is I'm going to say this: I am big, I am important, and I am better than none. And that's really important to realize. We are each powerful, big, beautiful lights. And when we realize there's no better than, we just appreciate each individual for who they are, for the beauty that they share, for the light that they shine. And we let go of all of, quote, the dirt or the dark, and we embrace and we embody that light. And it's very, very exciting times. And it can be very challenging with all of the noise and the drama and the chaos.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to have people like Lisa and me and a lot of other people, whatever resonates with you, right? Whatever connects with you, to assist you, to be the pointer, to say, oh, go this way, this will help you, or this tool will help you, or your book of self-healing will help you, because you've experienced it. And I think that's the key, is our experiences are our stories.
Yes.
So it's really about experiencing it, not quote, knowing it like intellectually. We
Mm.
can learn about it, right? Take classes, but it's really embodying the love no matter what happens.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
learned about self-healing from your back surgery incident.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about that.
So it was in 97 is when I started with the Reiki. I had surgery, let's say in 95, back surgery. And I was in a lot of pain. And even after the surgery, I was still in a lot of pain. And I remember going back to the surgeon, and he said it was a ruptured disc, L5S1. And he said that there was another one right above it. So he said, well, we could do that. And I remember thinking, I'm not really healed from the first one. Why would I go back and have a second one? If it really, I mean, it helps. It did help some, don't get me wrong. But I also thought, well, let me see other avenues. Let's see what else is available holistically. And at that point, Reiki was very new. I mean, now kind of like it's like every other person seems to be Reiki, right? But at that point, I went, they had it at our local library, and it was a Reiki circle. And one of the things they would do is they'd have you sing two songs. One is I Love Myself the Way I Am. I could not sing it, couldn't sing it. I pretended it was because I didn't have a good voice. That's what I told myself. Because I'd squeak and this and that, and then I'd be like, I'm not going to sing that. And then Whitney Houston's The Greatest Love. And every circle we sang those two songs. We'd have a guided visual meditation, and then you'd receive a chair Reiki treatment for about 10 to 12 minutes. After I would do that, I would come home and I was high as a kite. I was so naturally high. My son, who was 6 or 7, was like, what do you do when you go there? Like, what happens? And I was like, well, it's all energy. I connect with the energy and I feel the love. And I invited him to come, and he came. He was like, wow, that's really amazing. Your hands get so hot. How does that work? So I shared, how it, in simplistic forms. He wasn't interested in taking a class, although I'd be happy to share with him. That's the other thing that's important, is to honor each person on their path. So although I found it very important to do, and I could see how it could help a lot of other people if they were in pain, but if they're not ready to hear it, we have to honor that. That's another big thing that I learned, because you get so excited, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Look, it helped me. It saved myself, right? Let me help you. I could help you. I could help you. Well, if they're open to that being helped and to be shown, but if they think it's like voodoo, or you're crazy, you're that kind of thing, then they're not going to join you. And that's okay. Again, God loves us no matter what, right? So it's honoring each person in that space. So that Reiki really helped me. The other thing that I would share is a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, yeah, here we are, when we started with COVID. I just want to share that. I was out in Sedona. We were hiking, my husband and I, and we went with this guide. And they brought us to a very high mountain that I had never gone before, and I was not physically fit like my husband was, right? Um, so my first instinct was, no, I don't want to do that. And they were both like, oh, come on, you can do it. And I was like, no, really, I think I'm good. You guys go. And then they were like, oh, you're afraid? So now what kicked in, right? I was like, no, I'm not afraid. So rather than honoring my first gut feeling, I went up and we went really high and it was gorgeous. We were in this cavern and I was looking at where the Hopi Indians were. It was like, wow, sacred, really cool. And they went off, my husband and the guide, and I was sitting there thinking, how am I going to get down? Like that was scarier than going up.
Yeah.
And so when I was coming down, I took a fall, a big, heavy, boom, fall. I broke my wrist. I needed surgery. I had a plate put in. Then I was like, my back was always really bad, hurting me. My shoulder was hurting me. I was like, oh my gosh. I ended up needing back surgery and shoulder surgery. And what's interesting, I want to share about this story, two things. One is to first and foremost, pay attention when you get a gut feeling in the moment, stick with it. Okay, that's the first thing that I learned. But I see this now as it was a great learning process. It was a catalyst again, that I didn't pay attention to my inner wisdom. The other thing then is that I started to blame. I started to blame them, my husband and the guide, for taking me after I told them no. And they, quote, made me. No, no one makes you do anything, right? But that had to be brought up for me because I think that was a story that I had that was going on, right? To blame people. But when we blame, we're not taking responsibility.
Right.
We're not moving into our sovereignty.
Exactly. We just become the victim then.
Exactly.
Right?
So, wow. I mean, I learned it in a big way, but you know what? That's how it works. Because first, I always say this, first they whisper, and we're like, not paying attention, not playing. Then they hit us with they hit us with a brick, right? And then it's like, boom, you're down for the count. Well, I guess I had to be boom down for the count, unfortunately, for me to realize and to step into my power. Because from that place, yes, you know, for a long time in between the surgeries, I thought I could heal it with my Reiki. And I thought, well, I should be able to heal this. And I would work and work. And then I was very, very upset with myself that I wasn't able to. So the other part of this is, hey, there's medicine out there and it can help us. And it can, if you have something broken, you want something mended. And yes, to work along with the Western medicine and the Eastern medicine. So it's all together. It's not a if this and that, you know, there, so it can work together beautifully. So I learned that as well, right? But the most important thing for me, yeah, was that whole, and for everybody, the whole COVID thing. Oh my God, that's when it happened. The hospitals were closed. I was the last patient they accepted for my wrist, which was the first surgery. Everything was closing. So it was really a wild, fear-based, and I'm going to say fear-based third time, because I think we're going to go through something again. And if people can remember what happened, we turned into a we them. There was this fight that was going on, and it was prompted and promoted, right? Whether it's politics, Democrat, Republican, I'm right, you're wrong, and who's fighting with who. COVID, did you take the shot? Did you not take the shot? You're an idiot. I mean, it was like, wow, amazing. And if we can get to this place of being the neutral observer, like that eagle's perch, and see it from a place of love and wisdom, where maybe they each have something important to share with us. but not getting drawn in to the game,
Exactly.
the polarities, right? Because the love, when you're in that place of love, it's in that place of neutrality and observation.
Exactly. It's like the
So
eagle that flies above the storm. As soon as the storm comes, the eagle just rises up, flies over the top, and doesn't have to get embroiled in it at all.
exactly, exactly. So if we can remember this, because there are a lot of changes that are occurring.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of dismantling in the economic and the military and the financial and the religious systems. This is all in divine order. And if we realize that and we stop resisting it, because that just kind of keeps it going, keeps the whole story going. If we can resist that, and we are creators. So let's create. What do we want to create?
Exactly. And that's where it's really, really important to have a vision, to be able to be curious. What is possible? What else is possible? We've been doing all the war and the disease and the poverty. What else is possible? There's far more available to choose from than what we've been shown. And we have the ability to create far better for ourselves and this planet.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, we haven't been trained to do that.
We have,
Because even though I know that, it's kind of like I see where you go back off again. It's like, oh my God, thinking about, something I don't want to think about. It's like, where did that come from?
right? It's very magnetic, is what I find, is that all of these low frequency fear, doubt, guilt, shame, blame, they're very, very magnetic. They pull us in, and then just like boom, when those magnets stick together, they're stuck together until we can neutralize those charges and let them pop apart.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's important to know that it's there, right? That it is magnetic. Our emotions are magnetic, our thoughts are electrical. Realize it's kind of like we're walking around like this battery, this antenna. So whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm doing, guess what? I'm putting that out there and it's coming to me.
Yes.
So if we want to see where we are, look at our lives.
Hmm.
Very simple. Look at what we've created. And it is through our thoughts. I have a deck of those cards by Dr. Emoto. And I love the experiment. He was a Japanese scientist and he created well, he was a scientist and he took water and he put different words on each jar and he froze it. And so, for example, one jar might have been love, one might have been simplicity, one might have been harmony, one might have been hate. He put it in the freezer and he took a microscope and he looked at the different crystals. They formed different crystals. The one for love and beauty were amazing and gorgeous and beautiful. The one for hate or anger or shame or blame, it didn't even form crystals. It was dark, it was black. The reason why I'm sharing that are words. Our body, what? We're made up 75, 80% water. So every time we're saying, oh, I am stupid, or I am stuck, or I am sick, oh my gosh, think about that. Let's let go of that. And let's be in our preferred state of being. So I am healthy. I am vibrantly healthy. So if we can wake up each morning and close our eyes and do 3 gentle breaths, so this is where I am right now. I am vibrantly healthy. I am abundantly wealthy. And I am infinitely wise. So that's what I breathe into, and that's what I'm creating. And you had mentioned it before, it's realizing that we're creating it and having that intention. So if we don't set the intention for ourselves, what happens? We're like in the soup of mass consciousness.
Exactly. This is why,
right?
when we want to create something, we have to get very clear and we have to intend to create it. We have to intend for it to manifest. It doesn't have to manifest in the split second that we're thinking about it, but
Exactly, right? But so that brought me to the other thing that I created last year.
I was just gonna pull the I was just
I
gonna
know, it's so funny. I'm creating. What else did I create? Yeah, so this is my Angelic Guidance Oracle deck. And I love this deck. I really, really do. I love
I
this.
love this deck too. It's beautiful. Kathy has created an amazingly beautiful deck, and it's filled with angelic wisdom.
Hmm. It is. And I just chose one card. I chose one before, and it was sense of humor and
Ah,
how sense of humor is.
right?
And this one is decision. So maybe you're listening to this and you're coming up, whoever is listening, whether now or another time. When making a decision, go within. Pay attention to your inner wisdom by connecting to your gut feeling. Drop down from the mind with your breath into your heart. Ask yourself, if I choose this, whatever that may be, fill in the blank, does it feel expansive, light, and exciting? Or does it feel dark, heavy, and constrictive? If you are neutral, you can explore further. So the expansive, light, and bright would be a yes, right? And the heavy, constrictive, dark would be, no, that's not for me. If I had taken the time to do that before I went up the mountain, there you go. So, yes, so these messages were brought through from the angels for me to share with people. And I tend to be very concise, and I'm not very wordy. Half the time I forget my words, as you well know. I'll share a description for Elisa to come up with the word I'm looking for. Summon of words over there. She's so good. But I created this and I got images, and it all came together really easily and gracefully because I was following my passion and being of service. Whenever we're in our service, everything comes to us that we need.
Exactly.
There's no struggle.
Yes, we're always provided for. Always,
Exactly.
in
Right.
every moment.
Yeah. So I first resisted this because I was like, I don't need to create a deck, because I kept getting the inkling to create a deck. And I'm like, but there's so many decks out there. There's so many ones out there. Like, what difference would this make? And they kept coming through and saying no. And then they gave me like an outline of what I was to cover, what the different messages were. So I could be out walking in nature and I'd be getting a download. So then I text myself. It's like, okay, I'll write down these certain words to remind me later.
Mhm.
That was one of the messages. Or, I was in bed, my husband, and I'd be writing away. He's like, it's 2 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm getting all these really good messages. So going with the flow when it comes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 a.m. is a great time, prime time to receive your messages, right?
And the reason is because it's quiet.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, we're able to go into that kind of meditative state. There's not that super mass consciousness. And that's why a lot of people wake up at like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, exactly. Prime time to resolve any conflicts that we have going on, prime time to receive information. And I always have a notebook by my bed, always.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. Yep. Have that notebook and journal. Oh my gosh. That's the other thing. By looking and observing from that neutral place, we get to see our anomalies, things that are not working for us. And if we jot them down, we start seeing the patterns.
Yes.
And it's interesting when I work with people, they're like, oh, I don't want to look at that because then that's what will expand. I said, not necessarily. I said, if you have the tools and the techniques that I'm sharing with you, you can resolve it. You can let it go. You don't have to continue to play there. You don't have to be triggered anymore. And it's like, Oh, also, how nice is this?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one
So
of the things I've noticed about, especially light workers, there's a real resistance to looking at the darkness. There's a resistance to looking at what's going on in the world because they don't want to focus on the darkness. But we're here to shine our light on the darkness because when we do that, when we look at it, we can see it clearly. And we can stop participating in it and then it goes away. So when we have these stories of, I'm not good enough, blah, blah, this happened when I was 4 years old and I'll never forgive them. Well, if we don't look at it, we just keep carrying it around. It's like if we just
exactly.
look at it from neutrality, like you say, we can clear these things out. We can
Hmm.
disengage those magnets that
Yeah,
have us stuck in there.
exactly. Yeah. But it's so true, right? It's like, yeah, we do want to see it because if we see it, then we have an awareness. And that's the shift from the unconscious,
Yes,
don't want to know, to having the awareness to becoming conscious,
yes, precisely.
right? So that's where the beauty lies. And then we create it in harmony, in beauty, in bliss, in joy, in simplicity. And simplicity we talk about a lot. We have that in common as well. It's in the complicated, it's the mind, right? You get all locked up and confused in that mind. It's kind of like, no, it's in the simplicity. And I've noticed where there's a resistance to simplicity as well.
Mm,
For example, the breath. The breath is our gift of life, right? It brings us into the moment, the present moment, which is all we have. The past, the future is our illusion. So you keep having present. So if we can make that connection with our breath, oh my gosh, we're connected to all that is. I am that I am. I exist. I'm like, that's where it all is. So, wow, the breath, so important and so overlooked,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's exciting, it's phenomenal, and yes, we have continued work to do, shining the light on the dark, letting it come up to be cleared, so that we can move beyond it, and having the tools and the techniques that we share can help people go through these challenging, chaotic, noisy times that we're in.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I want to go back to one thing that you said. You said that you kept saying, I'm sorry. And your dad said, stop saying, I'm sorry. What do you think he knew when he told you that?
Interesting question, isn't that? I like that. Um, yeah, stop saying I'm sorry, like step into your power kind of thing. Um, and don't play little, don't be little. My dad was a doctor. He was like Marcus Welby, MD, though. I don't know if you remember that movie. I'm dating myself, but he would have his black bag and he'd do house calls.
Mm,
The farmer, Davis Peach Farmer, he'd come and he'd give him peaches instead of money. Like that's what he did. He loved helping people.
mm,
He loved teaching. He would teach, as a matter of fact, and he had a great sense of humor. Oh my God, he was so funny. I tended to be very gullible, so I'm going to share this funny little story. When I was in school, he would always talk about it takes kidneys. He would say it takes kidneys.
Up in
So
your
when I was in grade school, right, the teacher was teaching science class in the anatomy of the body, and and they show the kidneys where the kidneys are. I said, "Oh no, 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 no,
head.
kidneys are,
Tap in your brain.
kidneys are here." And she was like, "No, they're not. They're down here." And I said, "My dad's a doctor. My dad says they're up here." So home, we're at dinner, we're having our daily conversations about how was your day, kids. And I said, well, can you imagine? The teacher told me, and he howled. He said, "You are kidding me." He said, "You told him?" I said, "I did. Why?" He goes, "Didn't you know that was a joke?" So really funny. Really, really funny. Yeah, they had a sense of humor. They really did. Yeah, so I was lucky, I was blessed. And it was also very traditional. You know, you didn't want to be outside the box because you would be considered crazy. So there was that part of it too. Yeah. So it's being okay with all of the above. It's kind of like loving all of it, accepting everything, and realizing that it was all there to bring me to where I am in this now moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I
So
don't say I'm sorry anymore.
I love that because it's such like an automatic response for so many of us. You know, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Like we didn't do anything,
Right. And
you
I've
come around the
changed.
corner in the grocery store and you come right into somebody almost, and you're both coming at each other, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I'm sorry, like, excuse me for existing in your way. Like, wait a second, where's that coming from?
Exactly. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Huh,
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for asking that question.
sure.
Yeah, that brought a whole new light to it.
Yeah,
Because I was at it from, it was funny that I was saying it, not what I was learning. Interesting enough, from dad.
yeah.
He's very happy. He's very happy. Thank you, Lisa. Because you know they're all with us all the time and I hear them. So
Yeah.
he's laughing and he's very happy that I got that message. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I mean, I think it's a message that we all need to hear because I think probably every single person that's listening to this has that automatic response or had that automatic response at some point in time. And
Mm-hmm.
if we still have that automatic response, this part of the conversation is going to trigger that the next time that we say, I'm sorry, it would be like, oh, wait, hang on. And it'll give us the opportunity to reprogram that.
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned to say is I apologize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Because okay, I can't. I there are times when I do want to apologize, which I
Right.
hadn't said, right? And we can do that energetically well as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is energy and energy is communication. And here we are. On my website, I think on the top is I love to communicate and I communicate to love.
Oh, that's beautiful. Kathy,
Yeah.
what is your website if people want to go to your website and find out?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's Kathy, Kathy Bradley, Bradley, and the Angels, andtheangels.com.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yes.
thank you so very much.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us. It's so inspiring. It's so interesting to hear other people's stories. And I don't think we get enough opportunity to share our stories and share the wisdom that we've learned throughout our lifetime. So I'm very pleased to be able to have this platform to let people share their stories because we all have so much to share.
Thank you, Lisa. I really do appreciate it. As we said before we started, I said, I've never done this before. I'm like, and we both said, well, who asks us about our story? So thank you for creating the platform, Lisa, for offering this for me to be able to share my story and for all of the people that are participating.
Yes, again, it's just one of those it's divine guidance. It came in and it was like, "Hey, why don't you create this?" I had been doing something called Solution Sunday, and I needed a little break from that after doing
Mhm.
like 2.5 years straight or 3 years straight of doing that, never missing a Sunday. And
Yeah.
I need to just take a little break. And then it was very clear that I needed to retool and, come up with some new things. And this is one of the two things that came in. So,
Beautiful. Well, thank you again. I really do appreciate it. I love you.
I
And
love you too.
everything. Thank you so very much.
And if people want to find your cards and your books, can they find links to that on your website? I'm sure.
Yes, yes, that's where they would find it. The book is on Amazon. The cards are on my website.
And oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah. We're both involved with navigating the clickety
yeah,
clack.
indeed. And
Yes.
these cards are they're amazing cards. They feel good just in the box, just taking the box out. You can feel the love that went into these cards, and I love using them. So
Oh,
thank you.
beautiful. Well, thank you.
Great. So, everyone, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Solution Stories because every soul has a story. So, thank you all so much. Until next time, create for yourselves a great story because you can. Bye for now.
Bye.